Hey YouTube, I'm back with another Master System Monday, and this time we take a look at a game that is both pretty novel for the system and one that kind of bridged the gap between my original games that I had when I was kind of actively playing and the Master System was my main console, and by the time I kind of started to go for a full set, and that is Dragon Crystal. So, yeah, a little bit of background. My primary collecting, I guess, if you could call it collecting, started in 1991 when I got my Master System and probably ended around 1995-6. I had moved on to Mega Drive and eventually in the N64 in 97. So while I played the Master System, I never sold my original set or anything like that. I didn't really actively look for new stuff at that point in time onwards. But around 2000 or so, I was in a charity shop, I think it was in the UK, and I came across a couple of games. They were 50 cent each, and one of them was Dragon Crystal. So I picked them up. I mean, at 50 cent, why wouldn't you? I didn't know anything about it, and but I said, yeah, it looks interesting from the box art. Now, it would only be later on I would start to then, probably 2010, start to kind of, okay, I'm going to try and finish off the set. And I start to kind of really examine the games that I was missing. And I think I might have got the manual or something at that point. I don't think I had the manual when I first got it. And to be fair, that might have helped because Dragon Crystal itself is a roguelike game. And that is pretty novel. I think on the console space, the only roguelike that predates this is probably Fatal Labyrinth on a Mega Drive. And that doesn't really predate it by much. When you consider the challenges of trying to bring that kind of, you know, auto-generated new RPG experience to an 8-bit platform, pretty challenging. And I think Sega acquitted himself rather well given the limitations. Now, when I played this back in the day, I wasn't really bowled over at all. I have to say, I see an adventure role playing and I thought, ooh, this could be interesting. I was thinking Zelda, something like that. Then I jumped in and I started to play it, and it has that kind of ease combat where you walk into enemies and just hit them, as you can kind of probably see on screen now, and they gang up on you and all, and it's like all randomized, and I was like, what's going on? I just don't get this at all. And frankly, I ended up just more making fun of it than anything else. So we'll take a quick look at the kind of the paraphernalia. Yeah, here we have the standard manual. I do like the artwork. As I said, this probably would have been useful. It tells you kind of a bit more about the story, which is always useful. How to actually control it, which is very useful in this game. Yeah. Action screen, explaining the screens. To be honest, it probably is one where you do want to know like areas you explore, because it's one of those things where you see the guy walking on the screen, he kind of uncovers the map, and it's always different. I don't know if you can get yourself into no-win situations or not. I suspect you might be able to. And it's very hard, or at least I found it very hard, because enemies are attacking you, you're constantly running out of food, you can get poisoned, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, your standard cartridge. And the box itself, of course. And noticeably, it does have a blurb at the top. Plays on Master System, Master System 2, and Mega Drive Genesis with Master System power-based converter. So it's a relatively rare. It's a adventure role playing. You don't see too many of those on the Master System, and certainly you don't see procedurally generated ones. So anyway, Dragon Crystal. I always thought this was funny. You're caught in a fantastic world of unearthly beauty and deadly demons. You'll pass through 30 worlds in search of the magic goblet. There is no way out of this musical nightmare until you find it. So you mean there is a way out? Like, why is it musical nightmare? I don't get the musical connotation. It's Dragon Crystal. It doesn't seem to be about music. Why is it a musical nightmare? And then there's no way out. Oh, but there is obviously a way out because there are 30 levels and you can get out. I mean, I think I've gotten to about level 5. The screenshots, they're pretty basic. They do the job, I suppose, but they do kind of show you that there's a degree of repetition, which probably makes sense given the procedural nature. They have to reproduce it, and it has to be, the world has to connect together and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. So it's an interesting one. Fundamentally, like, I think it deserves a lot of praise for what it was trying to do on relatively, limited equipment back then. How well it succeeds, that probably depends on how much you like roguelikes. Fundamentally, I've come to determine that I don't really like roguelike games at all. I like to be able to, learn and redo the same areas and get better. Rogues just don't really facilitate that. You can obviously learn and get better, but not over the same levels because they change. So, your enjoyment level will really depend on that. Still, it's an interesting historical piece and one I do think is worth checking out. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that look at an interesting historical kind of game, and we'll see you again next week for another Mass System Monday.